This week, I have the answers for you on why the 2025 Ram 1500, the new Hurricane engine, doesn't have a dipstick. I got details from you from engineering. I'm also going to talk to you about the Ford F-150, in this case, the hybrid. It lost a starter. Yeah, it's just strange. You may not even know that starter existed. So it's going to be interesting to talk about this as well. Also, let's dive into that Toyota Tundra recall that's been all over the place and people are blowing up the comments about. I have more details from the official documents from NHTSA.gov on the recall and things you need to know about why the hybrid is not part of this recall. Hey, it's Tim, Pick a Truck Plus SUV Talk, and I'm pretty excited about this week's truck news recap. I do these once a week where I gather news stories throughout the week that don't quite make a video, and I give you more behind the scenes and what happens in the channel. And so, in the channel, on the website, that kind of stuff. So, it's interesting, I think, to you and for me as a journalist. I love this stuff. It's what I love doing, making you an informed consumer. Let's go to head to the website, pickuptrucktalk.com. And so, got a couple things going on here. I want to go to the right, all the way to the right here on this carousel of stories. And if you listen to this podcast, well, hang in there. Use your imagination in your head. Lincoln Aviator has a recall. Jeep Wagoneer is the safest full-size SUV in 2024. They tested other full-size SUVs, the IIHS did, and has some interesting data there. I had the Toyota Crown Signia, the really weird name, SUV crossover, thing. First drive article there. A lot of details, more details for you there. Let's go left-hand side. Let's start with the big one. I just got these answers today, like 2 hours ago, and I want to share these details with you. So the first thing we're going to talk about is that next to the story. The sensor fails, question mark. What do you do? 2025 Ram 1500 Hurricane, no dipstick concerns addressed. So I had a TikTok video, I had a YouTube video, stuff like that. Blew up 4 million views, or actually I think it's 5 million total on all the videos combined on Facebook as well. And there's been lots of questions because they went away from the dipstick, they got rid of it later and put in a sensor. More computers, more sensors. Yeah, we don't love these things. I know BMW and Volvo and brands have done no dipsticks for years, but I don't think truck guys really care about that. And trust me, based on the comments, you don't. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the details here on this Hurricane. So what I did was I basically just emailed a list of questions to engineering. Sometimes I get engineering on camera, but sometimes it takes a little bit more time to schedule out than you'd imagine. So let me just get the Q&A here and we'll go through these details. I also do have this engineer, though, who did the Hurricane engine on camera interview. I'll link that above. It's a really good interview. Lots more details as well. Let's go down below. Let's say, first question was the most obvious question. Why was a change made to not have a dipstick? Why did they save the penny or whatever and put in a 5-cent sensor, right? So it seems odd. It seems like a dipstick would be cheaper than a sensor. Why did they do this overall? And so the question came back. The Hurricane is a premium engine in the company's lineup. As such, the design team reviewed available technologies to enhance not only performance, fuel economy, and engine operation, but also customer convenience. The oil level sensor allows for oil level monitoring for customers that choose not to check their oil level on a regular basis. So, like, look, you guys aren't checking oil anyways. Let's just do a sensor, make everybody happy, make it a lot easier, customer convenience. Well, those who check their own oil and do more DIY stuff, they're not going to be so happy. So there's some winners and losers here. How does this sensor measure the oil levels and oil life? And I got oil life a little wrong in my head, but stay with me here. I'll explain that in a minute. The oil level sensor is an ultrasonic style sensor specific to the T6 application. T6, I'm going to imagine, is the Hurricane engine application. The sensor also has temperature sensing capabilities to compensate for volume changes due to oil temperature. It makes sense. Oil is a liquid, right? Expands when it's hot, contracts when it's cold. The sensor is not capable of measuring oil life. An algorithm using several metrics of engine vehicle operation is used for calculating oil life. I knew that one. I'm sorry, brain fart. Similar algorithms have been used in other engine applications, other brands as well. GM does this as well. They don't tell you like oil intervals really anymore. They tell you just check the oil life. And it gets down too low, get the oil life will tell you change your oil because the oil life is not good. Will the sensor detect things like antifreeze in the oil from a cracked head gasket? That was a really common question. A lot of guys want to pull a dipstick. They want to smell the oil. They want to look for how diluted it is. Want to see if there's antifreeze in the oil. That's a very common thing. And it says no. The oil level sensor only has capability to measure level and temperature. So if you're one of those guys who wants to smell it and stuff with the dipstick and really understand the oil through your nose, the way to say that, you can't. I know. I'm sorry. I'm a messenger. I'm the person doing it. Where is the sensor located? The sensor is mounted vertically in the bottom of the oil pan. So that makes sense, right? So oil cycles through the engine, goes through the oil pan, comes around. So that makes sense for that spot to be. What happens if the sensor stops working? Can you drive the truck? That was the big question. People were freaking out. They're like, that's just a way to get away from warranty, way to have trucks going to break down. It's a good way to blow the engine up. Really, guys, settle down on TikTok. The vehicle can be driven, but error messages will display in the cluster associated with a specific reason for loss of function. So it's going to be like, hey, sensor broke, alarm on the dash saying, get this fixed. We can't monitor your oil, get it taken care of. And so, you're not going to not drive it. Additional note that would be beneficial for this article. Owners can check their own oil by way of the oil level refresh procedure that can be found in the owner's manual section below. I have a screen kept down below. This can be done from the comfort of the cabin without leaving the vehicle. So they kind of have a quasi way to do this. And it's really an interesting software they're using. So let me scroll down to the owner's manual. And the owner's manual talks about checking oil level, how it doesn't have a traditional dipstick. And then it shows on the bottom left-hand corner of this manual, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit for everybody's benefit, because I know my eyes are getting older. Fine, I'm getting older. They have basically what looks like a circle. And the bottom of the circle is not part of the chart. It kind of goes around like a circle, and just you have a little bar chart kind of filling up. So you'll see the bottom left hand side just a little bit of bar chart filled up and says oil critically low, add 2 quarts. Next one comes up the bar chart a little bit more full, maybe one full bar is full. Oil level low, add 1 quart. As the oil bars come all the way up past the center, it'll say oil level okay. And then if it goes all the way around and it goes to the max, it says oil level critically high. And so this chart tells you how much oil you have, and it tells you, well, to a degree, how much oil you have, and it'll tell you, hey, you need more oil. Now, I'd imagine these bars you can look at how much oil is in each bar, how many quarts of oil the engine makes, and make your own calculations, what each bar means, whatever. But it's a quick way to look at this. Now, if you want to check your own oil, this is the oil level display, how to refresh. What they're saying is, in this guide, in this manual, is run the engine until the oil temperature is above 120 degrees Fahrenheit, which you can find on the dash. It has readouts of this. Park the vehicle on relatively level ground. Turn the engine off and cycle the ignition back to the run position. Okay, so turn it off. Press the run position, which I anticipate not anticipate, but I assume is the accessory mode. What I was taught is you have basically the truck is on, the engine's off. Okay. Wait 4 minutes with the engine off and the ignition in the run position. Start the engine, and the new oil will be available in the vehicle information info menu. Okay, so you can pull it up. You can do the navigation buttons to find that menu, and it'll be the chart on the left-hand side we talked about, how much oil is there. So if you change your own oil, you can put oil in. You can start to run the engine a little bit, and you can see, it shows you on the screen. If you're not happy with that and you want to make sure it's accurate, you can get the oil warm, turn it off, run it in run mode or accessory mode for 4 minutes, and then start it up and let it check it oil. So interesting way to do things, just a different way to get oil done, oil sensing. But I really want to share with you guys because I thought it was great to get those answers on why they did. I'm such a journalist. Why did they make those changes? Let's talk about the F-150 hybrid engine starter dropped, but it's not a big deal. This is really confusing. Starters, traditional flywheel starters, have been around for hundreds of years, right? Probably not hundreds, maybe 100 years. And this story came out. I saw it on LinkedIn. A lot of other outlets saw it, and most of us got it wrong. I got this wrong. Had to repost this afternoon after I made some changes to it. So what did they figure out? They took off a starter on the hybrid version, the Power Boost hybrid F-150, an accessory belt starter, not traditional flywheel starter, an accessory belt starter. Yeah, it turns out the hybrid system had a front of the engine accessory belt starter. And I'll go down here a little bit and I explain how engines work. It's kind of fun with that. But it's over here in the corner, and unfortunately the graphic doesn't show it on my screen. But bottom right-hand side, let's see, maybe bottom driver's side of the front of the vehicle, there is a item that is a starter, and it's bolted on. And what they were able to do is take that off and not use it. They still use the crankshaft to start the engine, but they're also using the hybrid motor to start the engine too. I'm going to go down to the LinkedIn post on this because it wasn't very clear to me. And let me just read it and see if it's clear to you guys. So it's from Kelly Johnson. He is the lead hybrid powertrain engineer at Ford Motor Company. And he says, how clever code upgrades drive experience new F-50 Power Boost hybrid. I'm assuming this is a press release. Test data shows improved powertrain smoothness in the 2024 F-150 Power Boost hybrid pickup compared to the previous model year. This is thanks to over 300 software enhancements, dialed-in calibration, and hundreds of thousands of development test miles. These upgrades enable an elimination of the belt starter, simplifying the powertrain, providing a refined system solution for our hybrid trucks. So I thought belt starter, I thought it was the traditional flywheel kind of starter, but no, it's not. He goes on. Traditionally, vehicles with internal combustion engines rely on a flywheel starter to spin up the engine, but the first generation Power Boost system also added a second starter integrated into the accessory belt drive. Accessory belt drive drives things like the compressors, alternators, the oil pumps, or power steering pumps, that kind of stuff. Our team of Ford engineers developed software enhancements that allow the hybrid motor to take on this task, enabling the drive motor to spin up the engine through the transmission. These software upgrades result in a smoother blending of power between the electric hybrid motor and the gasoline engine for a more seamless drive. This improvement follows 3 years of development and data insights on the 2021 Ford F-150 Power Boost. So they came out with the Power Boost. They got it all done time they had. And the time they had, they got it all done, went to market. Then after it came out, they kept studying it. They kept working on it. The elimination of the belt starter has resulted in a simplified supply chain, reduced complexity at the engine assembly facility, and reduced production costs. So, sorry, I got an itch. There it is. So this GIF, if you're watching this on the video, you can see, and if you're not, go to pickuptrucktalk.com, type in a search term, and it'll be on the homepage. You can see this item that's in blue, that's a big item, and it's on the front passenger side. They basically took that off and got rid of it, and they used the hybrid electric motor and the flywheel motor to start the truck. There you go. So it's kind of interesting. It's kind of, to me, it's like a story, not story kind of deal. That's kind of the way we saw it. But let's go on to Toyota's next on my list. I got a couple things from those guys, actually. But this is the NHTSA.gov. If you don't know NHTSA.gov, you can go on there. You can find recalls for every model year of truck you're looking at. You'll see customer service campaigns. You'll see complaints. You'll see communication between the manufacturer and consumer. It's really good, great spot. And this, I pulled up the recall. This is because it has to go. All recalls get posted on NHTSA.gov. It's part of the recall process, and it's the debris from the manufacturing process may contaminate the engine and cause the main bearings to fail, which can result in engine stall and loss of drive power. We know this. We've done this. I did this video. We did it. But there's something more to talk about. Okay, so the form is the defect information report, which I find really interesting. I got a lot of questions from the comments and things, and this is interesting to me. Interesting stuff. So first of all, I want to talk about the manufacture of engines assembly. It's built in 2 plants. I didn't know if it was built in Japan or not, and it looks like it's built in both. So the 3.4 liter engine in the Tundra and the Lexus is also in a variety of other vehicles Toyota sells globally. So this is not an engine that's just built in one assembly plant. It's built in 2, and it's built worldwide. So we have the vehicle manufacturers they're building some vehicles in Japan and building vehicles in Texas. They are building stuff in the Tahara plant, which I've been to, which is a really cool plant, and the Huntsville, Alabama plant, which I've been to that as well. Really cool plant. Engine plants are really fascinating, by the way. Really cool stuff. So let's go through this and identification of involved information and involved vehicles and affected components. So we know the 2023 Tundra, 2022 Lexus, 2023 Lexus, the parts number, that kind of stuff. But the interesting part for most consumers is production period time frame. They put a time frame of when those trucks were built. So November 2nd, 2021 through February 13th, 2023. And that's when they narrowed down at the plant when these engines came off assembly line and when they were built in the facility they were built in, like in either Japan or in Texas. So the Lexus LX and the LX600 were built in Japan. That's TMC, and the Toyota Tundra was built in San Antonio. And so they've narrowed that down. And so what's interesting right here is the recall covers vehicles equipped with the V35A engines. That's the engine code that Toyota has given this engine, of a particular configuration that are manufactured during a certain period at a particular engine plants. The V35 engines in this configuration manufactured after this production period were manufactured with new or improved processes that better clear machining debris. So What they said was they fixed the problem by making the engine plants have a better processes to remove engine manufacturing debris, and that after those dates. So could it be a 2024 model failing at that point? I doubt it, unless the improved processes they come up with didn't really do a better job. And we've seen a few people talk about 2024 models having an issue. Well, maybe that, or it could be something else. Other Toyota or Lexus vehicles sold in the US are not equipped with this engine or have a different V35A engine configuration with different pressure in the main bearings. That's a very interesting thing. So a lot of people are asking, like, why isn't this one recalled, that one recalled, whatever. So different V35A engine configuration with different pressure on the main bearings. Some of these vehicles equipped with a different engine configuration have a hybrid powertrain, like the Sequoia. Sequoia has the same engine as the Tundra has, however, it's got a hybrid power system. This is the part I don't quite agree with. If engine failure occurs in a hybrid vehicle, the vehicle continues to have some motive power for limited distances, and the driver receives a continuous audible warning lamps, and visual warning messages. So they didn't recall it because it can still move forward and they can get that person to the dealership. The other ones they just recalled. So it's almost like saying that they know there's maybe some problems with the hybrid powertrain system, but because you can still drive it, they're not going to recall it. They're just going to fix it and replace it in the factory or at a dealership, which has been happening, by the way. Look at any of the comments on this channel. You'll see dealers who are telling me they are replacing engines, complete engines, $30,000 complete engines. That's what the facts are at the dealerships. And I'm sorry, but people have shared with me parts listings from their dealership replacing the engine. So I'm not going to argue about whether it's $30,000 or $2,000. They gave me the parts listing. The total number of vehicles potentially involved, and then description of problem. What this description of problem really goes down and says, we now know what this is. Okay, so the subject vehicle is equipped with a specific V35A engine that contains crankshaft main bearings, which allow the crankshaft to rotate within the engine assembly while running. During a specific production period, there's possibility that engine machining debris of a particular size and amount may not have been cleared from the engine during manufacturing and subsequently contaminated the engine assembly during the production process. For these engines and subject vehicles, the pressure of the main bearings due to the engine configuration is such that if the aforementioned machine debris adheres to the bearings and operation continues at higher loads over time, failure of the bearings may occur. This can lead to potential engine knocking, engine rough running, engine no start, and or engine stall. In the subject vehicles, an engine stall while driving leads to a loss of motive power. That's why they recall them, because you lose power. A vehicle's loss can increase risk of crash. Chronology of principal events. So this is what Toyota says when they received a field report indicated a vehicle equipped with the engine stalled in March of 2022. People come to me all the time like, hey, my truck's got an engine with this, or my truck's got a problem with that, whatever. I'm like, go to the dealer. I don't want to do it, dealer. No. You want to go to the dealer, because when you go to the dealer creates a report. This is called a field report. The field report gets pushed on to another engineering team within Toyota that looks at the reports and looks at the failures, and they start putting things together. So in early March 2022, one of you guys took a Toyota Tundra to a dealership and said it stalled. That's huge, because that starts the investigation process. To recover the involved parts and performed an investigation engine failure. Through this investigation, it was found that crankshaft main bearings had seized. So we're talking about spun bearings, but they said this one has seized. So I'm not a mechanic. I don't know the differences. I thought it was a spun bearing issue they're dealing with, but it sounds like it's pretty similar. So don't beat me up too much about that, please. In late July 2022, a Toyota field report and a dealer report were received that alleged the failure of two different V35A engines with damaged bearings. Toyota recovered the involved parts and performed an investigation of engine failures. Through this investigation, it was found that the crankshaft main bearings have been damaged, but due to the nature of the failures, Toyota could not determine the cause of damage. They thought that debris could be present in engine manufacturing machining process. So to reduce the possibility of engine contamination during manufacturing, Toyota implemented cleanliness process changes at its engine manufacturing plants. So in July of 2022, they got a field report and a dealer report. So dealer report gets, I don't know the difference. They get two reports. And they said, hey, maybe it's debris that's causing the problem. They couldn't figure out what the cause of damage was. Maybe it's debris causing the problem. So they implemented new processes at the engine plants. After the engine processes changes were implemented, Toyota continued to monitor the market for any increase in trend related to the issue. During this time, Toyota also recovered other B35A parts alleged to contain engine contamination to confirm whether or not the manufacturing processes made a difference. Toyota observed from September 2023 to January 2024, Toyota observed an increase in dealer and Toyota field reports related to engine failure involving debris. So now you got trucks out there with even more miles on them, and then more miles means more use and more wear and tear, and now they're getting even more reports. In mid-October, Toyota began an investigation into the design validation processes of the B35A engine and the installation validation processes of engine manufacturing equipment. So now they looked at whether it was a design flaw, which you guys have said in the comments quite a bit, hey, it's a design flaw, or whether it is an engine manufacturing issue still. It also continues to assess the effectiveness of the manufacturing process changes implemented earlier. And they also continue to recover B35A engines from the field. They use the engines to inspect oil filters and engine parts for debris. Toyota also used these engines to study the effects of debris in the engine over time. So they took these engines, they kept getting it from the field, they replaced them, they took them back to the lab. They checked oil changes. They put debris in the engine to see what would happen. I mean, they're just trying to figure out what the heck's going on. Remember, these engineers are real people. They want to find out what's going on. They are pissed off as much as you are. They want to build you a high quality product, and they are upset. Trust me, I know they are. As part of its investigation and design validation process of the B35A engine, Toyota began analyzing the bearing durability studies that were performed during the development of the engine. So they went back and looked at how the bearings held up over time. In January 2024, the Alabama engine manufacturing plant was requested to provide all quality testing swatches used to capture debris samples at specified intervals dating back to the beginning of the production for analysis. These samples represent the size and amount of debris present for production periods or lots of engines. Then, January 2024, Toyota presented the status of ongoing investigation items to NHTSA. So NHTSA had been involved in this as well. You see, there's always a lot of frustration with consumers when their truck breaks down. They feel like they're not being listened to by the manufacturer. Guys, you're being very listened to by the manufacturer. They're working with NHTSA. They're trying to find the issue. They're trying to boil it down. They just can't, they're trying to find the silver bullet. What's really going on? As part of this investigation and recovered parts in February 2024, Toyota began collecting and tearing down good engines recovered from the field. So from February 2024 to May 2024, they went out and got good engines, brought them back from the field, analyzed those. They used those engines to analyze the oil for metal content and perform an inspection of the oil passages. So that's something that people have been talking about as far as a potential fix, is doing an oil analysis test on existing engines. If they fail, then replacing those engines. If they pass, not doing a recall and not replacing those engines, because you're talking a lot of money by 100,000 vehicles. Toyota used these engines to analyze the oil for metal content. Like I said, Toyota noted that certain recovered engines showed some levels of bearing degradation or damage, but had not shown signs of failure. These bearings were sent to Toyota's engine design team in Japan for further analysis. So now they got Japan involved. So Japan and North America are talking about it. Japan is probably doing the same thing that USA is doing here. The US engineers are doing. They're working with their government over there, getting field reports, trying to figure out what's going on as well. The bearing durability studies were completed in March 2024. From these studies, maximum operation stress during driving, stress limits of each bearing, and the size of debris that each bearing was designed to withstand under normal loading were identified. In early March 2024, Toyota began scanning the testing swatch samples were collected. In late March 2024, Toyota presented an updated status ongoing investigation items to NHTSA. In early May 2024, analysis that performed on the bearings recovered from good engines were completed. The results show that the damage that was seen on the bearings from the debris created during the engine manufacturing process, and there were sufficient debris sizes and amounts present to cause the bearing to fail. So they did a bunch of testing from good engines, and they realized that if you add more debris to those good engines, you will find sufficient debris sizes and amounts present to cause a bearing to fail. So they were able to get good engines to fail, which validated their reason for thinking machining debris was the cause of the problem. Toyota also finished the scanning analysis of testing swatches samples from the Alabama manufacturing plant. A statistical study was applied to the data to create probability models. Based on the results of the above investigation, Toyota determined that during a specific production period, there's a possibility that engine machining debris of particular size and amount may not have been cleared from the engine or manufacturing, subsequently contaminated the engine assembly during the production process. For these engines and the subject vehicles, the if the machine debris adheres to the bearings and operation of the engine continues at higher loads over time, failures of the bearings may occur. This could lead to intentional engine blocking, running, all that stuff. So then they decided to issue a voluntary safety recall, and they don't have a remedy yet. There's a lot of people that are talking about it online. They're asking me questions about remedy. There's a thought that they will just replace the engines. There's another thought they'll do an oil analysis. The oil analysis comes back and says, yes, there is machine debris in there. They will replace the engine, or not. They'll keep it. They won't deal with it. It's a good engine. There's conversations about extended warranties. Lots of stuff going on with that. So let's move on. So that was a mission. I just thought that was really interesting for you guys. They're still working on recall notices. They're trying to figure out what they want to do. It's just, and you can see when I walk through those months and months of working on this. This is not a silver bullet thing. You start getting a report. You start getting another report from the date of when the first report happened in March 2022. It took them 2 years to identify what they really thought was going on, validate why they thought it was going on, and validate their hypotheses, and say, yes, this is going on. It takes time. That's what I want to say. What doesn't take time is pull a plug on something really popular. Oh, I'm good at transitions. I'm just going to whip through these a little bit faster. Toyota douses out rumors of a Ford Maverick fighter. Yeah. So Toyota's Ted, I highlighted it. Toyota North America CEO Ted Ogawa, Ted. I'm just calling him Ted. Recently spoke with Auto News and revealed that while discussions have been conducted with the bosses back in Japan, saying they're studying the area, but they still have no plan for that. I was told that Toyota's going to come out with something this year, but it looks like they have nixed that, so there will not be a Ford Maverick fighter from Toyota. All right, let's go to the YouTube channel real fast. Make sure to wrap anything up I thought about. Let's see. Truck news recap was a while ago. Maybe. Oh, yeah, it's right there. We talked again about the recall. A 060 test with the prior gen. I thought it was really interesting for those who are looking for a used truck or new truck. You can compare the models together. Our muddy off-road comparison with the Tacoma, Ranger Raptor, and Chevy Colorado ZR2 Bison. Look, guys, a TRD Pro wasn't there. This is in the comments. I can only review vehicles that were at that event. A TRD Pro was not at that event. A Chevy Colorado ZR2 only was not at that event. Those are 3 trucks that were there at that event. I did a JD Power look at their most dependable trucks for the last 5 years. I found that stuff interesting. I did get a lot of JD Power hate this time, like I normally do. So maybe that has quelled. I don't know. Sometimes I do. I did a road trip with the Hurricane engine, which I was really interested to do because I'd leave to the airport to go to the GMC Hummer or GMC Acadia first drive. Yeah, where's it at? Oh, it's not here yet. Sorry. GMC Acadia comes out next week. So, yeah, I just totally blew that one. So the Ram Hurricane mile per gallons. Well, I drove that to Denver again, long day and long trip back. But yes, GMC Acadia first drive stuff next week. Really interesting stuff for you guys. I really found it interesting. I did the most dependable SUVs for the last 5 years. Again, another JD Power thing. And then we did the Toyota Crown Signia first drive. It's better than you guys think. It's weird. It's a weird name. It's strange. But it's a better vehicle. I think Toyota is going to sell a ton of those. Oh my gosh, this went half an hour. I'm sorry about that. Sorry, guys. So hey, I'll stop right now. For more, check the other channel, check videos over here, right over there. A website down below as well, pickuptrucktalk.com. I'll put some links maybe in the description for those different articles. Top over there and read those and more details for that kind of stuff. As always, thanks for watching. I will see you down the road.